Virginia is undergoing profound economic, environmental, and technological changes, all centered around the activities of one industry: data centers. Data centers are the backbone of our modern technological world. They enable everything from watching Netflix on our TVs to huge companies training artificial intelligence models. Northern Virginia has the largest concentration of data centers anywhere in the world, and while there has been some financial benefit to particular localities, the explosive growth of this industry is bringing massive costs and risks that will fall on the people and environment of the state and region as a whole. We need to start taking account of these hidden costs and stop subsidizing the infrastructure needs of the biggest corporations in the world.
Okay, so a data center is part of what makes our digital world in the 21st century work. It's usually a large concrete building filled with servers, and those servers are what processes and stores and transmits our data that we're using every day.
The photos from your phone or the videos or any of those things that show up on that device, a lot of that computing power is elsewhere.
Everything is held in those big concrete boxes, and so when you save something in the cloud, it's not in the sky. Whoever came up with that, genius.
Northern Virginia already has the largest concentration of data centers in the world. At the moment, it's home to just about half of all US facilities. And yet the data center market here is still growing faster than anywhere else in the world, driven in large part by the boom of artificial intelligence. With these new facilities comes a huge increase in demand for energy upgrades, extensive acreage, and lots of water to operate. This explosive growth is threatening to derail our efforts to meet critical climate goals, maintain reliable and affordable power, protect air and water quality and state and national parks, and to conserve land.
Data center development's been going on in our area for a long time. It really wasn't concerning initially because we had planned for the growth in an area that already had existing infrastructure for that growth. But recently, during the pandemic, we saw a much faster growth rate of data center development.
Well, a big announcement for Louisa County today. Amazon Web Services will build a pair of new data centers there.
Yeah, total investment, about $11 billion, billion with a B.
In Virginia itself, there's over 300 data centers, and in Loudoun County in particular, on the east side in Data Center Alley, we have close to 150, 160 data centers, with more in the pipeline for approval. There's not really a comprehensive policy on any level that's looking at the cumulative impact of these data centers.
The on-the-ground impact of data centers is the land that they take up, but it's also the electrical infrastructure to power them.
Data centers use a staggering amount of electricity. New proposals are averaging between 60 and 90 megawatts per facility. For scale, a single 60 megawatt data center building will use the same amount of electricity as roughly 15,000 households. Even if a data center's large roof were covered with solar panels, it would only produce a small fraction of the power needed. When data centers are proposed in Virginia, their applications are considered and approved solely by the county, city, or town that they'll be built in. The locality considers each application individually on its merits, how much tax revenue it'll generate, how it will look, the specifics of its design, and then they make a decision. Taken individually, a single new data center might not seem like it has far-reaching impacts, but one has to look at all of the facilities being approved across the region together to get a true sense of their total cost. However, there is nobody at the state or federal level keeping track of all the proposals and the cumulative impact that dozens or even hundreds more data centers will have as they come online.
So as much as data centers will say that they're carbon neutral, their existence puts a lot of different renewable energy goals at risk. Most places energy usage is going down or staying flat because of increased energy efficiency. In Virginia, it is spiking up and doubling, and that's solely as a result of data centers.
Over the next 15 years, Dominion forecasts that it will need to produce twice as much power as it currently does, nearly an additional 23 gigawatts, in order to cover the demand of current and future data centers. That is equivalent to more than 5.5 million households, or 12 North Anna nuclear plants worth of additional power, just for data centers.
And now what we're seeing is this increased demand is not going to be filled with renewable energy. It's in fact going to be built with natural gas facilities. And so rather than taking natural gas offline and coal offline to reach our renewable energy goals by 2050, what we're seeing now is Dominion is now talking about opening a new plant in Chesterfield, for example, and increasing amounts of projects that are, really counterintuitive in terms of climate change and in terms of Virginia reaching its clean energy goals. I think for folks such as myself, I have 2 young kids. All of these things are interconnected, and we need to really get a sense of what that impact is, because it's particularly for younger folks, it's going to be a part of their future.
So who's paying for all of this? In Virginia, upgrades to the electrical grid, namely transmission lines, substations, and generation facilities, are not paid for by the specific company that requires the upgrade, but instead by all Dominion ratepayers. That's you, me, our neighbors. When we pay our electric bills each month, we are giving a direct subsidy to multi-billion-dollar companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Apple. I don't know about you, but that doesn't really feel fair.
We are up against an industry worth trillions that have insinuated themselves in every level of government.
These are some of the biggest companies in the world, and we're sacrificing our air quality, our water quality, our recreational facilities, and we're also building the infrastructure that they need to support their industries on our back. We're giving all of this to them, even though they're the richest corporations in the world.
In every single way, data center development goes from a micro to a macro level. And people need to understand that the risk is to everyone, whether it happens to be next door to you or not.
Our world increasingly revolves around data. We produce and store more and more of it each year. We can all try to make individual decisions to reduce the real-world impact of our digital footprint, but the use of data is a modern reality. As new technologies that require ever-increasing amounts of computing power are developed, the key question is how can we ensure that this is done sustainably? There's very little regulatory oversight of this industry, and we know that there is so much at risk. Unless higher sustainability standards and more oversight are put in place, today's soaring demand for computing power will inflict huge costs on our society and our environment.